All right. Hey, fandom, welcome back. Thanks for joining us here tonight. I am your host, Jeff Hasley. As always, I am joined by Brittany and Tom Schmidt. And we've got a great guest for you tonight. We're going to talk offensive line. Tonight is all about the offensive line. And we've got Matt Bitonti here to break it all down. So, Matt Bitonti is next.
Christian McCaffrey in the open field, inside the 30, inside the 20, McCaffrey touchdown.
All right, fandom, we are back, and we are joined by our guest, Matt Bitonti.
Who we are so excited to have.
Yes.
Always a pleasure.
You might remember Matt from last year. He's an offensive line analyst with footballguys.com. I have known him for many years, and the guy knows his craft. So we're going to talk about the offensive line. We're going to talk about prospects. A quick rundown of topics exactly. We want to talk about the Carolina Panthers offensive line as it stands right now, even before the draft. What areas are needed for the draft, as well as prospects that we can potentially target along the offensive line. And if we have some time later, Matt, we want to just kind of, pick your brain on some other topics as well. But welcome back to the show, Matt. Let's start with you. How are you doing? Anything you want to share here, or tell people where they can find your work? You give yourself a little bit of a plug.
Well, I've just been hiding out here in my writing cabin next to the Lake Winnipesaukee. No, actually, I'm hanging out in Philly. I write Football Guys, offensive line, a couple thousand words every week in season, updated for injuries. I try to do matchups against the trench warfare type stuff, see like best defensive line versus the best offensive line this week, that kind of thing, or the worst defensive line to find matchups. I've been getting into the against the spread betting type stuff, which is legal in Pennsylvania, and I'm playing around with writing a book about that. So I've been writing a lot, and hopefully soon you guys can get caught up with me at Amazon or wherever books are sold.
I would love an autographed copy of your book. One of my best friends is a writer, and she always, whenever she gets her book published, she always writes a little message for me. And the last book she put out, shout out to my girl Ashley, she dedicated it to me, which was pretty cool to actually see my name as the dedicated in the book. So that was pretty cool. So I do look forward to, I love reading all kinds of, I love supporting my friends. I love supporting, people that I know that are writers. I myself am a writer. I write kind of for fun, and I journal religiously. I do my art, and I have my little pictures that I put in my journal, and I make it all nice. But I'm all for supporting creative outlets, especially in the arts and literature arena.
Cool. All right. Well, this show we're going to talk about the offensive line.
Yeah.
Brittany, do you want to start them off?
Of course. So again, we want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us. So now, my question is, when we look at our current O-line right now, the depth chart, if you could pull up that image for us, Jeff.
Bam,
there it is. So if the season began tomorrow, okay, and we had this lineup right here, where would you rank this unit?
Okay, so just a little refresher about how I grade things.
Okay.
There's cohesion, meaning these players have to play together. So you're already resetting the cohesion at right guard and center, which is good news, 4 weeks into the season or however long it takes for these guys to figure it out. But the bad news is they're pretty low in the rankings right now. I'm not going to lie to you, because you've got a new starter at left tackle, a new starter at center, a new starter at right guard. Taylor Moton's an institution at this point. He's awesome. I actually really like, Bozeman and Corbet. They're great additions. Left guard's a bit of a question mark, but, they probably clock in at 29th or something right now, which is not that great.
Okay, so which would bring me to, follow up. How can we make ourselves better? What areas are needed in the draft, and going further, what O-line prospects are there?
Okay, so yeah, the Panthers pick 6th, and there are at least 3 elite left tackles in this draft by my count, all of which I think could be worth that 6th pick. And we'll get into them in a second. But to talk about the current lineup, I think Brady Christensen will be on the field at guard probably. And I think they're going to find that left tackle in the draft. I mean, we were here last year talking about getting left tackle, and it didn't quite work out that way. But, sooner or later, they're going to want to find a guy. I think the value will line up with the pick is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
If there's 3 edge rushers taken and 3 linemen taken in the first 6 picks, that's probably how it goes down.
So who would you take? Like, you're the Panthers, you're sitting at number 6. What would you address as far as, if it were up to you, you were going O-line, who would you take?
Okay, so they have a new offensive coordinator, McAdoo. They're going to try to run the ball. I think if Evan Neal falls to 6, that's like an instant pick. I don't think he's like, a Hall of Fame caliber player. Let me preface that. I just think he's very good, very solid, and he's going to be good right away.
Hey, Matt, can I interrupt you real fast? I know last year you were real high on Rashawn Slater,
yes.
even more so than Penei Sewell, at least from a vantage point of being able to kind of start off fairly quickly without having the time to ramp up. Like Penei Sewell, I think, is going to be a great player, but Slater is ready, and he was ready to go. And you called that out, and for a lot of reasons here, you're correct. How would you classify, say, Evan Neal or some of the other prospects with Slater or with Sewell? Like, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm just kind of curious.
That's a great question.
What you think of if you could compare them?
Yeah, I mean, I think Neal is obviously a bigger player. He's 6'7". Slater and Sewell are both 6'4" and under. Slater had arm length questions. Scouts always want to have like a typical 34-inch or whatever wingspan or more. So for that reason, maybe he dropped or whatever. It's perplexing how we, the fans or whatever, the analysts can be like, they should do this or that. And then the teams do something different. At some point you think maybe the fans could do this better, like maybe they should just have a lottery and just let somebody make the pick, because it's not really all that hard. These are premium positions. You look at the market, these guys never come up for free agency, or when they do, it's after many, many years, with the best footballs behind them. So to answer your question, I think personally, I would have Slater like maybe 2 or 3 out of this whole group of, if you had a max class of Neal and Icky and Charles Cross and Sewell and Slater in the same crop. Slater might be 2 or 3 based on his technical skills. Like, we're going to talk about Tyler Linderbaum. That's like how good of a technician Slater was, but at left tackle. And it makes a difference when you're an undersized guy. You have to be on the spot. You have to get there. You have to run fit. You can't rely on your athleticism. A guy like Evan Neal is usually always bigger and stronger than people that he's going against, but he was in the SEC. He actually has the most film against, really tough competition. And at week in, week out, he's working against Georgia in the national championship game. Like, this is serious reps, especially when Trayvon Walker, the Georgia defensive lineman, is going to go top 3 possibly. So I would say Neal has the most. He's the chalk pick, but in a way that Andrew Thomas was the chalk pick. Like, he might not be the best, but he's the best pedigree.
Got it.
Out of the crop, I like Icky Iguanu better than I have him number 1 in my
wow,
because he's such a violent run blocker, and he has things to work on in pass protection. Doesn't have ideal size, but he's the kind of guy you want on your team, and that's like what it comes down to is like, who's going to work to get better, because they all going to have to work. Who thinks they're already there,
And he can play guard or tackle, right?
That was the comparison. They didn't really think he would have long enough arms. He had 34-inch arms at the combine, which is good enough to be a tackle. So if Icky Iguanu drops to 6 and the Panthers take him, he's your left tackle on day 1. Brady Christensen slides into left guard. Now you're a team, you're a lineup that can come out and run the ball even when the other team knows it's coming.
Gotcha. I like that. The downside, of course, is, no quarterback taken at 6, or, no other position taken at 6. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So if you're going to go with offensive line, anyway, that you're going to hopefully have someone that you've got for 10 years kind of solidified on that tackle end.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
All right. So, let me ask you this. I mean, I know you said, obviously, like an example being Penei Sewell, he started left tackle. He struggled. They moved him back to right. Who's the purest left tackle for the Panthers? Because that's where their need is on the left side. Some guys like versatility, but I'm old-fashioned. I like the guy, play his position, and end a story. You don't need to be sliding him right, left, this. Put him at left tackle and forget him. Who is that tackle in this draft?
So, I was just about to talk about Charles Cross from Mississippi State. I mean, he's a pure left tackle, and you wouldn't want to move him to right. A guy like Evan Neal has versatility, where kind of like how Taylor Moton has versatility. You could think about moving him to left or right because he's just got prototypical size. But Cross is, I feel, a smoother pass protector, elite technician. He's also in the SEC, really good film. In some ways, better film than Neal. He's just not quite as big. And that would be like getting Dwayne Brown as a rookie. It would be like he's an elite pass protector. He's not really going to road grade for you. But maybe he can learn to be that player given time. Just like all these guys are going to have to learn what life is like in the league. But I was actually really high on Penei Sewell and Slater. I had them equally good. Mm-hmm. And even though Sewell started off weird, I think that he fought through it, and I still believe in that player as well, just to set the record straight, because I try to stand up for my predictions, as wild as they may be. But last year's draft was who could have predicted that Chase would have been the rookie of the year? After the draft, I told you the wide receiver is going to be the rookie of the year. Would you believe that?
Yeah. Well, the one thing you said about Sewell and Slater, as you said, Sewell is, a mauler. He's NFL ready. He's the plug and play. Sewell could have some room for improvement and all that, but I think Sewell finished well, and I think he's on a very good path too.
So, I mean, the Lions have a great offensive line. Just to get off a little bit off topic, that's an example of a team that has Taylor Decker, Sewell, Frank Ragnow at center. That's dominant level talent. And you're like, well, why are the Panthers 29th? It's well, who are your dominators? Do you have 2 dominators? Do you have 1? Now you actually might have a few with guys like Austin Corbett and Bradley Bozeman coming through. They're really good players, but it's going to take a little bit of time for them to, in a way, their low ranking means they have more upside as the season blossoms. Other teams, they're returning all 5 players. They don't have upside in the rankings,
Right. If they start off high, they could either stay up, they can only climb, or they can just.
Yeah, and injuries happen too, and that's almost random. It's who can stay the healthiest. The Rams stayed healthy, and they won the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
Or they got healthy at the right times. David Bakhtiari never got healthy, and the Packers needed him, and they never came out for that playoff game, and that was that,
Yeah, good point. Same with the Chiefs too. When they lost the Super Bowl 2 years ago,
Yeah,
that offensive line was arguably the reason why.
Starting with Remmers.
Why they strike Remmers.
Death, taxes, and Mike Remmers getting a penalty.
Yeah.
Trevor Penning, tell us about him.
So he's got prototypical attributes. He's out of northern Iowa, which is FCS, which is the same school Spencer Brown went to, who's currently the right tackle of Buffalo. And they're similar athletes, and they're both on that Bruce Feldman freak list. 6'8", 6'7", 330, legit 330. And not he's 6'5" and 300 and he needs to get here. And these all sound like giant humans, but when you line them all up, he's got everything you want. He benefits from having Spencer Brown come out and do so well as a rookie. That boosts his stock directly. Yeah. Now, I see him as a rich man's Tevin Jenkins. He's a run nasty mauler dude. Too many penalties. He has 34 career penalties, which is to put into context, Charles Cross has 7, and like Evan Neal has like 5, and like Icky has 11 or something like that, and 34s, and some of them a lot of them are personal fouls, a lot of them are holding. His technical pass blocking is not day one ready, as Tevin Jenkins wasn't day one ready. So you're looking at like a late first. I know some people are putting him in the top 10 and this and that. I feel like he's more of a late first, early second, but he would be a second rounder if Spencer Brown didn't exist.
Kind of a trade back scenario for the Panthers with him if they wanted to try and get some picks back.
Or like, Seattle could take him at 9 and prove me a fool. Like it only takes one team. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to rule it out. Like he has, if you like, getting off the bus is the old saying. Like getting off the bus, he looks like how you want a tackle to look.
Yeah. Those 34 penalties, though, we don't want to see that.
We don't.
He was like at the Senior Bowl, he was throwing people into the goalposts. He was like doing all these things that like make people happy to see that stuff in practice, but it's a lot. It's a lot of, and he's got to like figure out that you can't.
Especially in the NFL now, where like everything's taunting. If he's a little too, everything's a
could get kicked out of a game. He's throwing late one-handed blocks that are almost like punches, but the guy's already on the ground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Face up. It's almost like UFC.
Well, let's get into my favorite offensive lineman this year, Tyler Linderbaum. He's my favorite this year.
Yes.
Just like Slater was last year. Tell me about him.
So when a guy has this much hype, I usually get skeptical right away. Because I don't like it when it's like, hey, this is the guy's next best thing since Quentin Nelson. But, the more you dig on him, he's a wrestler, former wrestler. Like, that's the type of guy that, like, if you guys weren't running, he's more of a zone blocking guy. He's not a man blocking guy. He's Jason Kels. He's like, Kevin Mawai, maybe, to go back a few years. Like, he's not Nick Mangold. He's not like, a lot of times you look at an NFL center, they're 6'5", 330, just like the rest of the line. This guy is like 296, a little undersized. Rich man's, David Andrews or whatever, but he will go really high because his film is super clean. He's got all the leverage you want. He's like a Slater. He's got perfect technique. And when a guy's like perfect technique like that, he's a little undersized. And there's going to be people that are going to just take him off the board just for that. And then you have to be aware of that. He could go like later in the round. It wouldn't be that surprising.
And will teams take him for the center position, or would they also look at him for guard?
No, well, that hurts. He's not anything but a center. It hurts his versatility. It hurts his like value. A guy like Zion Johnson from Boston College, you can convince yourself he's got all sorts of versatility. Or even Bradley Bozeman can play left guard for you if he wants. Like these guys can do other things. Tyler is only going to be a center. But that's like he can do it at a Pro Bowl level for somebody in the right system. It's like an outside zone kind of get to the second level, engage the linebacker type of situation.
Yeah, that's what I liked about him is, like you said, his technique. Like talent-wise, he could be top 10. He could be top 5. But like you said, he's a center, and that's not really a demand for the position to be, top 5. That's more like 18, 19, 20 later on.
So Landon Dickerson came out of last year's class as a center. 6'6", 320. He ended up playing left guard, and he went like, in the 40s. But that was like a really savvy pick. I mean, it's like you play tackle, can you snap? That's like what they say to these kids. They're not like really looking for guys that are pure centers. It's not that he's a center. It's that he's a pure center.
Gotcha. Well, later round prospects you target?
So, I mean, I don't really dig too deep because these guys, it really becomes a probabilities game once you get deeper and deeper. But I like Cole Strange out of Tennessee Chattanooga. He's a center guard type guy. They asked him to snap the Senior Bowl. No one really's heard of him, but he'll probably go second round easy. I mean, you guys have a kind of a luxurious center situation because Elfline could snap too. Some teams don't have a center at all, and it's going to push those guys up.
Well, let me ask you. I got, just like I said, Lindenbaum's my favorite. The offensive lineman of interest this year, just like last year, we talked about Deonte Brown. Faalele.
What? I think he's too big. And I know that there is such a thing as too big. I mean, I'm like, I'm sure he's going to like prove me wrong or whatever, but 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", 380 or whatever, that's scary big for me. Because just like, not in terms of like health or anything. It's just more like I'm concerned that a Hassan Reddick or like a Von Miller type will get way under his pads and beat him around the edge. And, I know Zach Banner is a pro comp that people make for him. So I think he's like, he's going to go like maybe top 100. I mean, but there is a point where you can be too big. And maybe not. Maybe it's like we're watching the Lakers documentary. Nobody thought Magic could run the point. So I don't know.
I don't know. If he gets a hold of you, you're never getting away.
You're going to want him going forward. So that's like a very interesting guy to have as your left tackle going forward in a power running offense. And by the way, if you don't get the tackle at 6, they're going to come back around in like round 3 and figure it out, just like they did last year. They're not going to like necessarily use a premium pick, and that's just their priority. I mean, who knows? I can't predict it, but they clearly have their own like motives.
Yeah, so Carolina could potentially trade out of 6 to get a second or a third round pick, because right now they just have a 4th pick. 104, I think, is what it is.
A lot of these, Dr. Faalele, a lot of these like projections depend on the system. If you're coming from a system where everybody's going forward and it's going to be like a power running West Coast, get the ball out, bang bang, maybe it's better to have a bigger player. But if you're in a system where you're going to be dropping back and you have a lot of passing, maybe they'd be too big. So it depends on, each coach is going to have their preference. That's what I'm trying to say, and each general manager has their preference for the system.
Can we go back? I want to talk more about Neal, Ikwonu, and Cross, and which one is best for, like you said, a run blocker, road grader, or in terms of pass protection, and then who's the total package that if you could have both? Would that still be Neal?
So, I mean, I got to be honest. If I'm making the pick and you're asking me to make the pick, I would have Neal probably 3rd out of the 3. And that's probably controversial because of how like gifted he is. He hasn't given us he didn't run at the combine. He's not going to do any drill. And he's going to do drills, but he's not going to do any like measurable things. His height and his weight. And you can go to like social media and you can see him do box jumps if you want. But basically, like, he's good. He's not that good that he can opt out of the entire process. That's concerning to me.
Yeah.
He's an Alabama player, and that sometimes gives you like a little bit of an extra advantage, when it comes to selling yourself to the league.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be a guy. He's not going to be the best guy. I like Icky. I think he's going to be the best guy. I think Cross is going to be like an institution. He'll be like a Walter Jones that goes forever, just pass blocking forever, But and those guys, Cross might have the longest career. Like people compare Icky to Tyron Smith. I think Cross is more like Tyron Smith. Just a guy that's going to keep going and do the same thing over. And he can do run blocking stuff, but really you're paying him to just lock up like when Myles Garrett comes to town or whenever that big rusher comes to town. You're like, this is your job, bro. And some guys can do it, and some guys give up 6 sacks that game and like fall apart.
Well, the Panthers definitely could have an improvement in that area. So.
But to go back, Neal's not going to give up 6 sacks. He's not like Winston Justice or some like huge bust waiting to happen. Like, he'll be fine. It's just not as exciting to me.
So if we can kind of take a look a little bit at a high level view of your offensive line rankings, and maybe you have this, maybe you don't, but I'm kind of curious, what team has made the biggest improvement in their offensive line in the offseason?
No, I started to process them in preparation for you guys' show. This has become a yearly tradition as I refresh the ranking in March in preparation for my friends in the Carolina Panthers world, and everybody gets a refresh. So
Thank you.
I haven't what I haven't done is individually graded every players based on their latest form, and I haven't updated who the new O-line coach is or all the nitty gritty of the model. Yeah. But basically, Denver looks good. Detroit looks good. I mean, just by getting guys back, like getting Graham Glasgow back is huge for Denver. And, Billy Turner's your right tackle now. And now it's like, okay, I get it. Like Dalton Risner's the guard. All right, you got 3 dominators, Garrett Bowles and Lloyd Cushenberry. You're bringing back all 5 guys to all 5 spots except for Billy Turner. That's a good, solid start. Dallas got rid of Lel Campbell, but they have Lel Collins, but they have Steele to plug right in. Dallas will be back on top. KC looks deep as heck. Like they got Darrell Williams, and Darrell Williams might not even start at right tackle. They have all sorts of options, and that's what you want. Just options galore. I mean, I think there are guys like Green Bay if Bakhtiari comes back. I mean, these injuries can take a year to come back from, but if he can recapture all-pro form and then you move Elgin Jenkins back
Matt,
inside.
if you don't mind, how atrocious or not atrocious will the Saints be this year? Because I need to know.
So, I mean, they have changes, and that's never good. I mean, they have Ramczyk, and as long as Ryan Ramczyk is right tackle, you're always going to have like a pretty strong score in my rankings. It's not, you'll be mediocre at best, but like they're losing their left tackle. They lost their left guard, I think, too. So there's going to be some changes there. It usually probably puts you in the middle of the pack, but McCoy and Ruiz and Ramczyk is solid.
Still solid is what he said there, Brittany.
I was hoping for mediocre, Matt. Mediocre.
They're basically the same things. Just I'm more of an optimist when it comes to the news.
Can I talk about Brad Bozeman here for a second?
Yeah, sure.
What is his strength, and what is he going to bring to this Panthers offensive line? Is he now the default center who is going to be basically the coach on the field for the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of always that guy. He's 6th round pick out of Alabama, and he really got into the league on moxie. He wasn't really like an insane, athlete, but that guy he's tough. He's a leader. He's grown into his leadership role. I think the Ravens wanted to keep him. I don't think he was the type of guy they were like, we really want to get rid of this guy. Like sometimes you want to move on, but they had options. They had other guys. I think he played left guard as well. So I mean, if they come up with a center situation, they could bump Bozeman out to left guard. But I still think they're going to find a way to get Brady Christensen in that spot before week 1. So I think, he leads, he run blocks, he pass protects. He's like, in my grades, he's probably like a 3.5, which is like a B+. Like I use GPA kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, that's good. And Austin Corbett, how about him? I honestly, admittedly, don't know too much about him. I mean, how many times do you really look at the Los Angeles Rams guards, right? So tell us about him.
So I have him as a solid B, which is like 3 across the board. Good in run blocking, good in pass blocking. He's not insanely good in either of those spots, but he's good enough, which is like, it's like sometimes you just want to stop the leak, He's the guy that's going to like not hurt you. He's a glue guy. They won the Super Bowl with him, he's a glue guy. He's not your game changer that's going to win or lose by what he does, but that's okay. He's not going to, totally leave you out on an island without using salty language.
Stop the bleeding, basically.
He's not going to
be the turnstile.
He's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, we don't want any turnstiles on this offensive line this year.
Do you see them sticking Christensen at left guard possibly? I mean, I'd like to see him at tackle. He played well last year at tackle, but do you see him sticking him there?
So he played well. He played better than I thought he did. I thought he would, because he does have that long arm problem. He's got 32 and a quarter-inch arms, and like sooner or later you're going to run into a matchup issue with a premium pass rusher. So because of that, I think they would rather have him inside. But other than that one sort of shortcoming, he's a heck of a player. I mean, that was a good pick. And finding a good left guard is, I'm going to say, just as good as finding a good left tackle, but it's not nothing. I mean, these guys go for a lot of money. Laken Tomlinson makes $40 million from the Jets, being a decent B+ left guard. You make the Pro Bowl from that spot. He's more likely to make the Pro Bowl from guard than he is from tackle.
Well, do you have any charities that you're involved in, or would you like to give a shout out to so our viewers can give them a listen?
Wow, That's a really, really amazing question. I actually do donate to several charities, but right now my mind is blank because of the amazingness of this question. I try not to advertise my good deeds. I'm more like a give a lot of money to a homeless guy on the side of the road type of guy. But that's awesome. I mean, I should be more prepared for that question in the future.
We'll let you think about that for a second, because I got a question real quick, and this is way more easier. So what team would you say? Now, we talked about who we felt like in your rankings were improved. Okay. Who would you say are the biggest losers in the offensive line rankings? Who's worse than the Panthers?
Okay. Hold on, bring it up. So, I mean, Cincinnati added all sorts of pieces, but that's going to take time to gel. When you add you're not going to be highly ranked in your rankings when you tell me you've replaced 3 starters in the offseason. Now, why did you have to replace 3 starters in the offseason? Because they let you down in the Super Bowl. So you have a new center in Ted Karras, you have a new right guard, Alex Kappa, you have a new right tackle in La'el Collins. It's 3 new starters out of 5. Their cohesion scores in the trash right now, but they have upside to get better. The Bears, I don't even know what's going on with the Bears. They have
yeah, we like that. We like to hear that.
Dakota Dozier is penciled in as their right guard. I mean, some of these bad teams, they look towards the draft to get better, and that's not a good place to be. The Colts are we're an elite team, but they do not have a left tackle right now. That's concerning. You can't have Matt Pryor playing right guard and left tackle, despite what the football guy's depth chart tells you. That's not good when you have only 5 guys that you've ever heard of. Their depth is non-existent. So I mean, they're going to be in the tackle market. There's teams that are just going to be looking for the draft. I have to look at the Raiders. Since we're talking about last year's draft a little, Alex Leatherwood was such a bad pick. I mean, I'm going to say it. It was a bad pick at the day it happened, and it just got worse and worse. They moved him to right. He was at right tackle. They moved him into right guard. Still terrible.
And he was a first-round pick, wasn't he?
Went 19th.
Yeah, and he's more like a second or mid-second or late-second type of grade.
I can see the value of it in the second round, but it's, you know what I mean? There was that guy went really high. There was actually only 3 really good linemen last year. There was Slater Sewell and AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker. And there was other guys sprinkled through the draft, but this draft they'll probably be the 3 tackles I mentioned, Linderbaum, and some of these guards are interesting. There's all sorts of I don't want to say it's a better crop, but there's almost more on the top end. Trevor Penning, there's all these little stories you can get into. There's this guy from Austria, Bernard, whatever. He's basically Austrian Brady Christensen. He's so similar. Bernard Raymond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys are coming from overseas. You're seeing a lot more pipelines from all these different countries. So you have guys that are raw, and they have to adapt to the game. Jordan Mailala, for the Eagles, got, a huge contract, but he was a 7th round priority pick or whatever. He went to IMG Academy, and he was a rugby player or something from Australia. So, you got to broaden your horizons sometimes. You can't just look in the Big Ten all the time.
I mean, you said that Iguana's your favorite. Is he this year's Rashawn Slater? Is he capable of the Pro Bowl?
I don't think he's as pro ready as all that. Okay. I actually think Cross is probably more pro ready than all of them, but Icky has the upside. He's a very raw player who has the upside to be a Trent Williams or type. He really has. He can be aggressive in the run game and lockdown pass protection, but he has to work to get better to do it. But he's the kind of guy that you believe will do it. It's hard to judge these kids. They're and look into their hearts and souls and say which one of you guys is going to work the hardest, because it's really not about who can jump the highest. Yeah, that's why they have those interviews in the combine and the Senior Bowl, and they try to get a read on these guys, face to face, and it's hard, especially when they get coached by agents and other types on how to do these interviews, and you don't have to be a good person to be a good NFL player, but you have to be hungry. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes people get that mixed up, and like Houston has like a very like religious based team from whatever reason, and like that's one way to run a program. But you know, like you need to look at like the players, you know, hunger to get better, not necessarily who they are or where they're from.
Right.
What about Deonte Brown for the Panthers? I mean, we didn't see much from him last year. He was dealing with some injuries. Is there anything you saw that maybe we didn't see that you could tell us about him?
So there's a guy named Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M that people are saying is a borderline first-round guard. And I look at him and I see like a slightly better version of Deonte Brown. So like that's my pro comp for that guy is like I actually think Deonte Brown is percolating. And if you know, Austin Corbett gets hurt, you know, he might be the guy that gets in there. Dennis Daly always seems to get reps, you know, for whatever reason. But you know, that's how it goes for a guy who's drafted in the mid rounds is you have to prove yourself with like a battlefield promotion. Like somebody's got to go down and you have to get active on game day. It's hard when you're an offensive lineman and not necessarily contributing on special teams. Like they're not going to activate that many people. They're only going to activate like a backup tackle who can play like every position, hopefully, and a backup center is usually how it goes. And so you got 7 guys, maybe 8 active. And, you know, as long as he stays relevant, he can have a chance. I mean, I think guys like that who are like built like him and in this power scheme is going to have a lot of chances in training camp to at least be that guy that gets active on game day.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Yeah, because we, you know, it was a big deal when the Panthers took him, and then you know we really, you know, he hasn't really been a staple. We really haven't seen him take rotations and get reps much, get starts. So, you know, it was just we were curious about your.
So the good news is they haven't got rid of him. You know, like I mean, we come back. I've done this talk with you guys 2 years, and the depth chart changes just from 2020. Is basically Tyler Moton is your one sort of, you know,
anchor.
Yeah, I mean everybody else is gone. You've all 4 guys gone from 2020, and then you have 2, possibly 3 starters gone from 2021. So this is a lot of roster churn. So for Deonte Brown to keep his head above the water, even though he's still on that rookie deal, is like not nothing. You know, he's still in the mix. As you go through all these 32 teams, refreshing the model, there's a lot of change from year to year. Guys are just gone. You know, guys, oh, he's the starter. No, he's gone. He's a free agent. He's still on the market, you know, or whatever. Guys get injured, even young guys. They retire. Ali Marpet retires, you know. 28, I'm done. You know, it happens. And some guys go 20 years.
Yeah. Well, any on the free agent market right now that are left that the Panthers should consider giving a look to?
I mean, I like Dwayne Brown. I think you pick up Dwayne Brown, you have at least an option. The question is, what's his number and what's he willing to do, and how willing of a run blocker is he at this stage in his career? It gives the old fake pass block draw type of run blocking when you really want somebody who's going to like push the pile. You know, is the vibe I'm getting from Matt Rule. It's like the Eagles did at the end of the season. They kind of became a run first team, and nobody does that in the league. Everybody's like pass. But there is a run first sort of mentality kind of brewing on some of these programs, and that could be what's happening in Carolina.
Good stuff. So on draft night, if either one of Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, or Charles Cross is selected, fans should be happy, right?
Yeah, they're not like any real I think they're all going to be good in their own different ways. And I think that, you know, Evan Neal might help you the most on day one, you know, just because. But he does have like film that's like, you know, kind of questionable in terms of, you know, pass protection. He ends up on the ground. You don't like to see that kind of thing. But for a guy that's that good, you know, he could always get better. And I think that, you know, it's just going to be always like a quest for excellence with any of these guys. So who can get better? You know what I mean? And all 3 of them will start day one. Left tackle. No problem.
So that kind of brings me to my next, not really question, but just comment. Well, it is actually a question. I want to invite you to the draft night that we're having. You know, I think you were part of it last year too. You came in for a segment
I was a bad luck charm. I showed up and Joe Horn's son got picked, and I left.
Right. That's right. That's right. So we
And
want to.
no, because I
I was
wanted.
like, peace out, you guys.
Well, you are invited to come back.
Well, I have no plans.
That's good.
So I will accept your invitation.
Awesome. We look forward to it.
Anything you want to ask us?
Well, I remembered my charity.
Oh,
Okay, let's go.
There is a community fridge in my neighborhood.
Okay.
It's called the East Falls Community Fridge. East Falls. And we just shove a bunch of food in there, pick up food from, different food banks. It's become like hunger has become a real problem. So the community fridge, or if you have a community fridge in your own area, donate to that because people are hungry. So that's my.
I love that.
That's my charity plug. No one should be hungry in this country. Nope. I know inflation's bad and everything, but come on.
Yeah.
We'll throw that on the screen so that people can see it.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a Venmo too. I'll get that to you.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, even better. Cool.
Yeah, no, we've had quite a few
and I have
great
Venmo,
charities.
So I can Venmo you, a donation. And I'm always, Tom and I are very active in our religious community, so we're all about helping the hungry and the.
Yep. Now we've had quite a few great charities that people have said on the show. You got Hype for Life, that's by Hype Man Lucci. We give a shout out to Hype Man. We got Block Charlotte, that was by Cuddy Cutright.
Yeah.
Serving the Charlotte community. Shout out to Cuddy. And we got the Wounded Warriors, that's John's. Mm-hmm. And now we got yours. What is it now?
The
East Falls Community Fridge.
Community Fridge, that's right. East Falls
Community Fridge is like there's no like the concept is there's no like sign in, sign out. You come, you give what you want, you take what you want. A lot of people don't want to like deal with the bureaucracy, so they just what they have need, and it's no questions asked. And if you see something you want, you take it. You don't have to be like starving, but we like exchange things.
Nice.
All Community Fridge. Shout out to them.
Wonderful.
All right. Anything else you want to say here, Matt? We appreciate you coming on as always. We love your information, your insight, your knowledge, and your opinions on everything offensive line, especially with the Panthers.
And your valuable time. You're taking time out of your night to spend with us, and we're grateful for that. So
that's right.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the sport that I love. It's in my blood. I can't stop. It's.
Yep.
It is what it is. But I mean, like, I'm always gonna like watch it and consume it, and
yeah.
It's just so thank you guys, and I hope that everybody's draft goes awesome and they get free agents in the next couple weeks and everybody can get better at a low cost.
Yes, that's what I think we all hope for.
There you go. Well, shout out to Football Guys, and you can also check his work at footballguys.com during the season. He ranks the offensive line team by team, 1,000 words a week. My goodness, Matt. Let's see. Hopefully we get some news on your book publishing here at some point in the
2022. It feels like a good year to publish a book.
It really does.
There you go. Well, thanks again for coming on, and we will see you on draft night.
All righty. Thanks, guys.